So welcome everyone to this last session on Bodhichitta. Um, so this is a meditation session. You can hear me, Mary Ellen? Your face looks like what's going on. Okay. Yeah, so this is a meditation session. So we have about 2 hours. Last week we meditated on the definition of bodhicitta and the benefits, and then equanimity. And then we ended by going through the sevenfold cause and effect method, right, of meditating on bodhicitta, where we recognize all sentient beings have been our mothers, remember their kindness, generate a wish to repay their kindness, then meditate on loving kindness and compassion, and then the extraordinary attitude, wishing to take personal responsibility to free all sentient beings from suffering and establish them in the state of perfect happiness, full enlightenment. And then the last, then actually generate bodhicitta, the aspiration to achieve full enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. So that's what we did last week, right? Ors, Mary Ellen? I think so. That's where we left off. Como? Yeah. Okay. So now this week we'll finish meditating on the rest. So it means we'll spend basically the first half of our 2 hours on the meditating on the second method for generating bodhicitta, exchanging self and others. There's 5 steps in that method. And then the second half of the session, we'll meditate on the both methods combined. It's 11 steps altogether, combining both methods. Yeah, I think, yeah, so that's the plan. So let's begin by just getting comfortable in our meditation seat, and then just briefly generate positive motivation. And then if you like, you can join in going for refuge. And then we'll begin. So first, just take a few moments, scan through your body from the crown of your head down to the soles of your feet. Check that you're comfortable. Take a few deep breaths, relax any tension or tightness. So when we're doing a meditation session, and especially kind of a meditation retreat, like, this is for 2 hours, it's really important to, right from the beginning of the session, to do everything very gently and be very kind to yourself. So right from the, getting comfortable in your posture, checking your mind, generating a motivation, you want to do everything very gently, not pushing or not rushing, and within a mind of being very kind to oneself. Because if we can't practice kindness to ourselves, how can we practice kindness to others? If we can't practice kindness to others, how can we think of even bodhicitta? So then check your state of mind. Mm. And then gradually generate a positive motivation for this session. Just thinking about why you're engaging in this session, perhaps thinking about different sufferings oneself has experienced, others close to you have experienced, wishing to free them from that, or thinking about your own potential, the potential of others, aspiring to fully develop that. In whatever way you think it feels natural, then generate a positive motivation for this session, thinking, why am I engaging in this session? If you like, you can visualize field of refuge, representations of the Buddha Dharma Sangha, and then we can recite the taking refuge in generating bodhicitta prayer. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections of listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections of meditating on the Dharma, in this case, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my two collections of meditating on the Dharma, may I become a Buddha to benefit all transmigratory beings. So, and so as we meditate, I'll put up some of the different slides from the PowerPoint I made on this module, on these two sections of this module. But you don't have to look at the slides. You can or cannot, it's up to you while you're meditating. So first we'll meditate on the method of equalizing and exchanging self and others. So it's good to, if we first visualize ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings, because remember, we'll build up to the practice of giving and taking. at the end, right? That's the final step. So it's good, yeah, we visualize ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings in the way we usually do, beginning with our mother and father, uh, to our left and right, and all our female friends and family to our left and behind us. Imagine our male friends and family to our right and behind us. Then those whom we're most prone to become irritated or angry with seated directly in front, and then all the other sentient beings seated around. So take a minute or so and just contemplate that visualization and try to generate a sense of all sentient beings with whom we're interrelated in this life and countless past lives and future lives. Have a sense of them being together with us. Mhm. So before we begin, actually, I thought it's good to read these few verses from the Shanti Devas, the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, about the benefits of meditating on bodhicitta in general, and especially this method of exchanging self and others. So these are verses that His Holiness the Dalai Lama and other teachers who follow his example, they quote again and again and again. So Shantideva says, whatever joy there is in the world, all comes from desiring others to be happy. And whatever suffering there is in the world, all comes from desiring myself to be happy. But what need is there to say much more? The childish work for their own benefit alone. The Buddha's work for the benefit of others. Just look at the difference between them. If I do not actually exchange my happiness for the suffering of others, I shall not attain the state of Buddhahood, and even in cyclic existence shall have no joy. So having mounted the horse of an awakening mind, that dispels all discouragement and weariness, who, when they know of this mind that proceeds from joy to joy, would ever lapse into despondency? I think we'll skip over that part. So then the 5 steps: equalizing self and others, the faults of self-cherishing, contemplating the many good qualities that come from cherishing others, actually exchanging self and others, and then meditation on giving and taking. So we'll just meditate on those one by one. So first, equalizing self and others. So first, actually, I'm not sure I'm going to follow the outlines here, but anyway, they're just for your reference on the screen. So again, going back to our visualization, ourselves surrounded by all sentient beings and 3 groups of friends, strangers, antagonists. Then here, equalizing self and others, it's in terms of the degree of importance we attach to the well-being of ourselves versus others. So we begin by, I think it's best to begin by just reflecting on emptiness, how these labels of self with regard to oneself and other with regard to others and than oneself. are just labels. They're empty of any inherent existence from their own side. They're labels that we apply from our own perspective. Just like when we're on one side of a valley, the foot of one mountain, we label like this mountain, this side, and then the mountains on the other side of the valley, we label the mountains over there. But then if we cross the valley, then it switches, right? Or if we're on one side of a river, we label the side we're on this side, and even maybe have some attachment, my side. And then the other side, the side on the other river is the other side. But they're not inherently like this or other. When we cross the river and we're on the other side of the river, then that side becomes this side. And the other side that we were on before becomes the other side. So thinking just like that. So just as, this side, the near side, the far side, the near mountain, the distant mountain, they're merely labels we apply on the basis of our perspective. Then it's the same with regard to our own body, our own mind, our own aspirations, our own identity as self, and then attaching more importance to that self than we attach to other. It's all empty of inherent existence or empty of existing from its own side. It's a kind of identity as self or other that exists merely in dependence upon perspective. So take a couple minutes and just reflect on that. So then another important way to reflect in regard to equalizing self and others is how this, because what we're trying to equalize is our own predominant concern for ourself alone at the exclusion of others and our lack of concern for others. So we try to equalize our the sense of concern we have for others as we have for ourselves. So another way, in light of this labels we apply of self and others being just relative. Another way to think is that related to that is within that recognizing this identification of self versus other. Well, one is that others, they each, other people we consider other, each of them with regard to themselves, they consider, themselves as a self and us as the other. Mm. And then another way to reflect is that this predominant concern we give to ourselves at the exclusion of others is merely a product of habituation, right? It's merely a product of ourselves kind of assuming that oneself is more important than others, not seeing that it's a merely a label that we merely apply, and then habituating ourselves to this idea that my own, happiness and well-being is more significant, more important than that of others, and the happiness and well-being of others is less important, less significant than my own. So, to whatever degree we have that kind of bias, then it's merely a product of habituation. It's not something inherently the case or inherently existent, and it's not a way that we inevitably have to relate to the world at large. So contemplate that just for a minute or so. And then finally, with regard to equalizing self and others, then the one main point, just to reflect on one main point, there's many things to reflect on, but um, in order to make sure we have time for the rest of the steps in this half, yeah, to reflect on oneself and how oneself and others are equal in desiring to be free from suffering and having the potential to be free from suffering, having the right to that, and equal in terms of the flip side, desiring to have well-being and happiness, having the potential for that up to enlightenment, and having the right to those. So here I forgot to mention also that usually, so when we do this meditation, it's good to visualize, in addition to all sentient beings around oneself, visualize just one representative from each group in front of oneself. So one friend, one antagonist, one stranger, So it's helpful. It's usually recommended to visualize 3 individuals. And then, um, so when we think about how others are the same as us and wishing to have happiness, wishing to be free from suffering. So first get a sense of that, one's own wish to have happiness and be free from suffering, and then reflect on first one friend, recognize how they're the same in that way. And when we have a clear sense of that, move on to a stranger and recognize how they're the same in that way. And then finally, turn our attention to the most difficult, the one we tend to dislike, and recognize how they're the same as us in that regard. So maybe just reflect like that for a couple of minutes. So now I'll move on to the second step, the faults of self-cherishing. So first we want to get a sense of what what we're talking about, self-cherishing or this selfish attitude. So it's not that it's not okay to wish for one's own well-being and happiness. Of course, bodhicitta is wishing for one's own ultimate happiness, full enlightenment. But it's rather wishing for one's desiring one's own well-being and happiness in a selfish way, in a way that's one is exclusively concerned with one's own well-being at the cost of being concerned about anyone else. So first, just take a minute, try to get a sense of what this, in your own experience, this kind of self-centered, selfish attitude is, how it arises, when it arises, what it feels like. Try to see it clearly. So then we reflect on all the drawbacks of self-cherishing. So in short, it's that every afflictive emotion that arises every time we become angry, do something to hurt someone else, intentionally or unintentionally, every time we're jealous, every time we give rise to kind of arrogant pride, every time we commit any non-virtuous action, such as killing, stealing, lying, slander, then these all arise out of this kind of this selfish mind, self-centered, egoistic mind. And therefore all the resultant sufferings that arise from negative karma. The force of negative karma all have arisen from this mind. So every suffering we ever experienced arises from this selfish attitude, and our continued, rebirth in samsara again and again through countless lives is all powered by this mind. And then here's some other, just on the PowerPoint, some other faults. Makes our own problems seem huge, makes us seem lonely, and so forth. So spend a few minutes reflecting on all the different faults of self-cherishing mind in different ways. Let's take a break for a few minutes now. Just relax, and then we'll come back and meditate on the benefits of cherishing others. So 3 minutes break. When okay. When I'm guiding meditations, usually I think of more things that I think I should have said while I'm meditating. But then I don't want to keep saying stuff because it's distracting. Like while we were um meditating on the faults of self-cherishing, I was thinking, I mean, there's always more to meditate on than we have time, right? To also to meditate in the time we have a lot of. But one of the things I was thinking is so helpful because sometimes, when you think of our own self-cherishing mind, sometimes I don't know, it's a little difficult to get it clear. And I don't know, sometimes it can be a little difficult to see the faults and get a sense of it. But when we think of other people's self-cherishing mind, it's very easy. So think of other people who have been like selfish and how it's like annoyed us. It's very easy to see. But then that becomes a gateway to see how we act the same way, in many situations. Um, so sometimes, yeah, when we think of the faults of self-cherishing, it's good to think about, well, not only how do we see the faults in our own behavior, but think about other people who've been, you kind of see how self-cherishing, motivates them to do things that are not kind of appropriate. Anyway, now we go on to the benefits of cherishing others. So here, yeah, I know from here on, I got quite lazy with the outlines. I just quoted from the Lama Chopa. But oh, that's the faults of self-cherishing. Okay. Anyway, I'll just mention a few points, but I know the benefits cherishing others. Yeah, it's kind of like you think of the faults of self-cherishing and it's everything. That's the opposite. No, up to every kind of well, basically every virtuous action we engage in, protecting the lives of others, protecting the possessions of others, protecting the lives of others, the opposite of killing, protecting the possessions of others, the opposite of stealing, being honest and transparent in our communication and our speech with others, the opposite of lying. All that comes about from caring about others. And then you can think of all the loving relationships we have with our family and friends, how all of that comes about and is strengthened by cherishing others. And the kind of real pure sort of joy, the selfless joy the joy, the very pure, sort of extraordinary, powerful joy that comes about through just really purely caring about another person. And then on up to so many good things we can do with our lives. The benefit that so many people bring to others, those that they know, even as strangers, in terms of charitable work or different careers, working as a doctor, nurse, teacher. And then in terms of spiritual practice, whatever kindness we receive from our own teachers all is a product of us cherishing others. And then whatever benefit we receive from the Buddhist teachings in general is all, a result of the Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, Gautama Buddha himself, being compelled by great compassion, achieving full enlightenment, and teaching the Dharma. And then countless followers of the Buddha passing his teachings down from generation to generation. Anyway, so in some of those ways, those are some suggestions. Spend a few minutes reflecting on the benefits of cherishing others are the good qualities that come from cherishing others. So just to end, Panchajyogi Yeltsin says, the mind that cherishes mothers, so kind mothers, sentient beings, and places them in bliss, is the gateway leading to infinite qualities. So in terms of one's own qualities, cherishing others will, this mind, cherishing others, caring about others will lead oneself to, more greater and greater happiness and states of well-being and states of, awakening up to full enlightenment. Seeing this, I seek your blessings to cherish these transmigratory beings more than my life, even should they rise up as my enemies. So spend a few minutes meditating on the benefits of cherishing others. So then the next contemplation is actually exchanging self and others. So meaning the degree of concern we ordinarily, our childish kind of selfish mind ordinarily gives, say 99% of our concern to ourselves alone at the exclusion of concern for others, and gives just a very small degree of concern to others. So recognizing the faults of the selfish concern and the benefits of selflessly or altruistically caring about others, then we try to change the degree of concern we have. So where we primarily give our attention and concern for the well-being of others, with just a small degree of concern for our own welfare, recognizing that by devoting our lives to serving others, to benefiting others, by the way, our own greatest well-being and happiness will be achieved. So Pension Gyaltsen, again from Lama Chopa, says here, in brief, infantile beings, or it means childish beings, immature beings, labor only for their own ends, while the able ones, means the enlightened ones, work solely for the welfare of others, with a mind understanding the distinctions between the failings of one and the advantages of the other. I seek your blessings to enable me to equalize and exchange myself with others, cherishing myself as the doorway to all loss, while cherishing my mothers as the foundation of all good qualities. Hence, I seek your blessings to make my heart practice the yoga of exchanging myself for others. So, yeah, so this is bringing to mind then the faults of the selfish attitude, the benefits of altruistic, um, loving kindness, compassion, caring about others. Then to try to and then from the first step, the equalizing, thinking how from an objective point of view, my own personal aims and well-being is no more important than that of the countless other sentient beings. So from the point of view of wisdom as well, then I try to generate a equal concern for every sentient being as I have for myself. So spend a few minutes trying to exchange this degree of concern for self and others. So then the next step is the actual meditation on giving and taking, Tonglen. So here the basis, I gave the quotation from Nagarjuna. That's the basis for this practice. So maybe I'll just read that first. Like the earth, water, fire, and wind, like medicines and firewood of the monastery, may I always be enjoyed by all sentient beings as they like without resistance. So that's more thinking about the giving part. May all sentient beings, may I be enjoyed, may I be beneficial to all other sentient beings. So may I give away my body. Well, first my possessions. The usual order is imagine giving away possessions or body, and then all of our roots of virtue or merits. And then the next verse: may sentient beings be dear to me like my life. May they be even more dear to me than myself. May their ill deeds ripen upon me, and all my virtues ripen upon them. And then Penshin Gyaltsen, the same meaning, summarizes saying, and thus perfect, pure, compassionate gurus, I seek your blessings that all negative karmas, obscurations, and sufferings of mother transmigratory beings may without exception ripen upon me right now. So that's the taking part, which is meditation on compassion. Imagine taking upon the suffering of sentient beings upon oneself, and especially upon one's self-cherishing mind. And that by giving my happiness and virtue to others, all transmigratory beings may experience happiness. Okay, so let's set up the visualization first. So remember oneself surrounded by all sentient beings in these three categories of friends, strangers, antagonists. And then here again, it's helpful to first initially visualize these one person representing each group seated directly in front of oneself. And then remembering the faults of self-cherishing, the self-centered, egotistical mind, and how much suffering that brings to us, how much disappointment, loneliness, negative karma, disturbing states of mind, afflictive emotions arise from the self-centered attitude. So then recognizing all that, the faults of selfish mind, then imagine that mind as like a black, dark ball at one's heart or in the center of one's chest. Very dense, hard, black ball. This is totally inward, kind of cancerous, totally self-centered mind. So imagine that it's like a black ball at one's heart. And then reflecting on the benefits of caring about others, cherishing others, the joy that comes in this life, all the positive actions of body, speech, and mind that arise from that within our own continuum, within the behavior of others. All the enlightened, all the positive qualities of others come from their selflessly caring about other sentient beings, seeing others as kind, remembering the kindness of others. So thinking about all the benefits of that, then, so first we'll meditate on taking. So taking the suffering of others. So as we inhale, wishing to free others from suffering. As we inhale, then imagine. So start with a friend, or you can start with yourself if that's more comfortable. But if it's comfortable to start with a friend, start with a friend. Imagine how they suffer. Remember their kindness to you, wishing to repay their kindness. Then try to think, may their suffering ripen upon me. And then as you inhale with each inhalation, imagine, drawing their suffering out of them, their sickness or sadness or misfortune or whatever suffering that friend has. So imagine it comes out of them and in the form of like black soot or black liquid or smoke. And then it flows into you. And as it enters you, it becomes like a powerful lightning bolt or laser beam and destroys the selfish mind and your heart. So just in the little time we have, then reflect in that way. Just reflect on, meditate on taking the suffering of others. So then you try to end by thinking they become completely free from suffering, and you become completely free from this self-centered mind. And then if you have time, you can move on to a stranger and move on to the antagonist or enemy, and do the same meditation on taking. It's motivated by compassion. Sorry, meditate on, taking, meditation on taking, motivated by compassion. And then combine that with giving. Or you can meditate on just giving first and then combine them. So to meditate on giving, so remember giving is in essence, is the meditation on love, wishing for oneself and wishing for others to have every form of well-being and happiness. So the way we visualize here is so as we focus, we can begin with ourselves if we like, and then go to a friend and a stranger and an enemy. But think of the forms of well-being and happiness that we're bereft of, that we don't have, and then wishing for ourselves to have that. Then imagine by the power of that wish, then we generate, all these forms of well-being and happiness. But then, especially for others, so beginning with a friend. So usually we, once we become familiar with it, then we mount this visualization on the exhalation. So each time we exhale, then imagine from your own, then you offer first your possessions, and then even your body, and then even your roots of merit. So as you exhale, you imagine those go out from your own body in the form of like beautiful light rays in different colors. And then they transform into whatever the person you're focusing on, whatever they need, whether it's physical health, mental clarity, friendship, inspiration, money, possessions, and the realizations, spiritual realizations up to enlightenment. So as you offer your body, becomes all of those. When you offer your possessions, becomes all of those things. Whatever would bring whatever that person's most in need of for their well-being. And then gradually imagine the person becomes fully enlightened. And then you can move on to the stranger and then the enemy. So meditate on giving, motivated by love, loving kindness. And finally, spend a couple minutes on combining these two, taking on suffering of others. So with each inhalation, imagine taking on the suffering of others through the force of compassion, wishing for them to be free from suffering. And then imagine it again, it comes into one's heart as a powerful lightning beam, destroys one's own self-cherishing mind. They become free from suffering. And then feeling that kind of release, that ease of being free from the self-centered mind. And then as we exhale, imagine giving one's own possessions, one's body, one's roots of virtue to others in whatever form brings them the most well-being and satisfaction. So just spend a couple minutes trying to combine taking and giving all upon the breath with the breath. Finally, for a minute, connect that meditation, giving and taking, to bodhicitta. So it should culminate in this aspiration to achieve full enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. Mm, okay, so you can relax your attention there. And let's take another short break before we finish. So just maybe another 2-3 minutes break, and then we'll conclude with the method of exchanging the two, right, in 11 points. Okay, so now let's yeah, we'll continue. Um, yeah, with so there are 11 points total. So this is again combining the method of the sevenfold cause and effect method with the 5-step method for exchanging self and others. So I don't know, actually 5 plus 7 is 12, but somehow it's condensed to 11. I forget exactly how. And equanimity is added. I think equanimity is from the 5, recognize both the ordinary and special ways of reckoning their kindness, generating the wish to repay their kindness. Yeah, that's, and so there's equanimity from and equality. Yeah, I forget. I remember thinking a lot about how did they combine it into 11 before. And there's loving kindness, compassion. Oops. Altruistic attitude. Anyway, I don't remember offhand. Anyway, we just go through the 11 steps one by one. I'll play briefly on each, just very briefly because we don't have much time. And anyway, kind of review. So just first to get comfortable in your meditation seat. Again, draw your attention inwards. Remember your motivation. Remember all sentient beings seated around you and how you're interconnected with them, how you're all empty of inherent existence or empty of existing from your own side. And then if you like, visualize one friend, one stranger, one enemy in front of you. So first, spend a minute meditating on equanimity. So try to generate a sense of an equal sort of degree of concern for all sentient beings from one's own side that's unbiased by attachment to some and aversion towards others. So looking at these 3 groups of friends, enemies, strangers, try to level out your sense of concern for all of them. And then the second contemplation, recognizing that all sentient beings have been your mothers, And not only your mothers, your kind father, relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents, children, one's own children, siblings, friends. So in short, recognizing how from life to life, over countless past lives, there's not one sentient being who hasn't been, or we can definitively say has not been extremely kind to us as our very own mother, or other friend or family member, or in some other way. And the third, contemplation. Let's see, like recollecting their kindness. So thinking how other sentient beings have been, our kind mother, father, sibling, children, friends, so forth. Then recollecting their kindness, how they've been in those different roles in countless past lives. Every sentient being has been infinitely kind to us in different ways in this life and countless past lives. Every uh, pleasant experience, every good fortune we have up to our own enlightenment, all comes about in dependence upon other sentient beings. Think of their kindness. And then together with that, generating the wish to repay their kindness, right? So thinking of the kindness of other sentient beings to us, even in terms of practicing patience, while other sentient beings give us the opportunity to see our own anger and other faults. So thinking of the kindness of others in multiple ways, from many different angles, then generate a sense of gratitude and a wish to repay their kindness. And then the next step, contemplating the equality that exists between self and others. So just as we meditated before, the very beginning of this session, especially remembering the emptiness of inherent existence, how the labels self, myself, and other are just relative labels that we apply. Then we become habituated to attaching more significance to one than the other. But from an objective standpoint, the importance, the potential, the well-being of every sentient being is the same. So try to generate an equal degree of concern, cherishing the well-being of all sentient beings and oneself equally. And then the next contemplation, reflecting on all the faults resulting from self-cherishing, ego-centric, self-centered attitude. And one's own experience and one's experience of others and the world at large. And so think of all the different faults, how suffering, different forms of suffering arise from self-cherishing. And then recognize, so just as the mind of self-cherishing is a kind of it's a mind arising from the ignorance of being ignorant to one's mind being blind to the interdependence of all things. So the mind cherishing others is a mind that's awakened to, enlightened by the understanding of the interdependence of all things, especially sentient beings, living things, and sentient beings. So then recognizing the interdependence of all things and the benefits of cherishing others and try to generate this, a clear recognition of the infinite benefits that arise from cherishing others as oneself. Mm. And then again, just briefly meditate on giving and taking, Donglen. So taking, imagine taking upon the suffering of others. And this is, in essence, meditation on compassion from the sevenfold cause and effect method. And then meditate on giving away one's possessions, body, and roots of virtue in a way that brings others well-being and happiness. So this is, in essence, the meditation on loving kindness. So just for a minute or so, again, meditate on giving and taking. And then finally, the last two steps, can meditate on together. So I think this label is from Bhagwan Rinpoche's Liberation of the Palm of Your Hand, the development of altruism. Well, what it means is this exceptional attitude. And thinking, I myself will actually establish all beings, all sentient beings, all the kind loving sentient beings in freedom from in freedom, state of freedom or liberation from every form of suffering, and the state of perfect happiness up to enlightenment. So a sense of personal responsibility, it's exceptional attitude. And then the 11th step, Bodhichitta. Again, therefore, I myself must become quickly enlightened in order to accomplish the welfare of all sentient beings. So spend a couple minutes, meditate on these last two together, the exceptional attitude or altruism and bodhicitta. So you can relax your attention there, and we'll dedicate the merits. So let's rejoice in what and all the merit we've created through this session and this module for oneself and all the others in the course, which are empty of inherent existence. And then rejoice in the merits created by all of the ordinary sentient beings like ourselves and all other holy beings and all their virtues created with body, speech, and mind in the past, the present, and the future, which are empty of existing from their own side. So, in short, by the force of all this merit, may we and all sentient beings be free from every form of suffering and misery and pain, confusion, and have every form of well-being and happiness up to full enlightenment. Then bring to mind any personal prayers or aspirations you'd like to make. So may all those your prayers be accomplished, and especially for Anne, Anne's mother, who's in the process of passing away in hospice. So may she pass away peacefully. And all others who are sick, may they be healed, sick in body or mind. May they completely be healed or recover, or all those who have recently died or in the process of passing away, that may take a precious human rebirth, a rebirth in a pure land with whatever conditions are most beneficial for them. And may war and violence in the world, in the war in Ukraine, Syria, and other places, as well as domestic violence, all be completely pacified. And there be peaceful resolution to personal and international conflicts. And may the crisis of climate destruction, may we find solutions and the earth become a perfect place for Dharma practice. And then let's dedicate with the King of Prayers. So this prayer, it takes like 10 minutes to read or so. I know we'll go a little over time. So if you have to leave, it's okay. Bow down to the youthful Arya Manjushri, you lions amongst humans, gone to freedom in the present, past, and future. And the worlds of 10 directions, to all of you with body, speech, and sincere mind, I bow down. I'm trying to memorize this. With the energy of aspiration for the Bodhisattva way, with a sense of deep respect, and with as many bodies as atoms of the world, to all you Buddhas visualized as real, I bow down. On every atom of Buddhas, numberless as atoms, each amidst a host of Bodhisattvas, and I am confident the sphere of all phenomena is entirely filled with Buddhas in this way. With infinite oceans of praise for you and oceans of sound from the aspects of my voice, I sing the breathtaking excellence of Buddhas and celebrate all of you, gone to bliss, beautiful flowers and regal garlands, sweet music, scented oils and parasols, sparkling lights and sublime incense, I offer two victorious ones. Fine dress and fragrant perfumes, sandalwood powder heaped high as Mount Meru, all wondrous offerings and spectacular array I offer to you victorious ones. with transcendent offerings, peerless and vast, with profound admiration for all the Buddhas, with strength of conviction in the Bodhisattva way, I offer and bow down to all victorious ones. Every harmful action I have done with my body, speech, and mind, overwhelmed by attachment, anger, and confusion, all of these I openly lay bare before you. I lift up my heart and rejoice in all positive potential of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions, of solitary realizers here still training in those beyond, and of all ordinary beings. You who are the bright lights of the worlds in 10 directions, who have attained a Buddha's omniscience to the stages of awakening. All you who are my guides, please turn the supreme wheel of Dharma. With palms together, I earnestly request you who may actualize parinirvana, please stay with us for eons numberless as atoms of the world, for the happiness and well-beings of all wanderers in samsara. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created by paying homage, offering, and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting the Buddhas to stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. May you Buddhas now living in the worlds of 10 directions, and all of you gone to freedom in the past accept my offerings. May those not yet arisen quickly perfect their minds, awakening as fully enlightened ones. May all worlds in 10 directions be entirely pure and vast. May they be filled with bodhisattvas surrounding Buddhas gathered beneath a Bodhi tree. May as many beings exist in the 10 directions, be always well and happy. May all samsaric beings live in accord with the Dharma, and may their every wish be fulfilled. Remembering my past lives and all varieties of existence, may I practice the Bodhisattva way, and thus on each cycle of death, migration, and birth, may I always abandon the householder's life. Then, following in the footsteps of the Buddhas and perfecting the practice of a Bodhisattva, may I always act without error or compromise, with ethical discipline, faultless and pure. May I teach the Dharma in the language of gods, in every language of spirits and nagas, of humans and of demons, and in the voice of every form of being. May I be gentle-minded, cultivating the 6 paramitas, and never forget Bodhichitta. May I completely cleanse without omission every negativity and all that obscures this awakening mind. May I traverse all my lives in the world, free of karma, afflictions, and interfering forces, just as the lotus blossom is undisturbed by the water's wave, just as the sun and moon move unhindered through the sky. May I ease the suffering in the lower realms and in the many directions and dimensions of the universe. May I guide all wanderers in samsara to the pure bliss of awakening and be of worldly benefit to them as well. May I practice constantly for eons to come, perfecting the activities of awakening, acting in harmony with the various dispositions of beings, showing the ways of a bodhisattva. May I always have the friendship of those whose path is like mind, and with body, words, and also mind, may we practice together the same aspirations and activities. May I always meet a spiritual mentor and never displease that excellent friend who deeply wishes to help me and expertly teaches the bodhisattva way. May I always directly see the Buddha as masters encircled by bodhisattvas, and without pause or discouragement for eons to come. May I make extensive offerings to them. May I hold within me the Buddha's genuine Dharma, illuminate everywhere the teachings that awaken, embody the realizations of the Bodhisattva, and practice ardently in all future eons. While circling through all states of existence, may I become an endless treasure of good qualities, skillful means, wisdom, samadhi, and liberating stabilizations, gathering limitless, pristine wisdom and positive potential. On one atom I shall see Buddha fields numberless as atoms, inconceivable Buddhas amongst bodhisattvas in every field, practicing activities of awakening. Perceiving this in all directions, I dive into an ocean of Buddha fields, each an ocean of the 3 times Buddhas in the space of a wisp of hair. So I too will practice for an ocean of eons. Thus I am continually immersed in the speech of the Buddhas, expression that reveals an ocean of qualities in one word, the complete and pure eloquence of all the Buddhas, communication suited to the very tendencies of beings. With strength of understanding, I plunge into the infinite enlightened speech of the Dharma of all Buddhas in the 3 times gone to freedom, who continually turn the wheel of Dharma methods. I shall experience at one moment such vast activity of all future eons, and I will enter into all eons of the 3 times in but a fraction of a second. In one instant, I shall see all those awakened beings, past, present, and future alliance amongst humans, and with the power of the illusion-like stabilization, I will constantly engage in their inconceivable activity. I shall manifest upon one single atom the array of pure lands, present, past, and future. Likewise, I shall enter the array of pure Buddha fields in every direction without exception. I shall enter the very presence of all my guides, those lights of this world who are yet to appear, those sequentially turning the wheels of complete awakening, those who reveal nirvana, final perfect peace. May I achieve the power of swift magical emanation, the power to lead to the great vehicle through every approach, the power of always beneficial activity, the power of love pervading all realms, the power of all surpassing positive potential, the power of supreme knowledge unobstructed by discrimination, and through the powers of wisdom, skillful means, and samadhi, may I achieve the perfect power of awakening, purifying the power of all contaminated actions, crushing the power of disturbing emotions at the root, diffusing the power of interfering forces. I shall perfect the power of the Bodhisattva practice. May I purify an ocean of worlds, may I free an ocean of beings, may I clearly see an ocean of Dharma, may I realize an ocean of pristine wisdom. May I purify an ocean of activities, may I fulfill an ocean of aspirations, may I make offerings to an ocean of Buddhas, may I practice without discouragement for an ocean of eons. To awaken fully through this Bodhisattva way, I shall fulfill without exception all the diverse aspirations of the awakening practice of all good Buddhas gone to freedom in the 3 times everywhere. In order to practice exactly as the wise one called Samantabhadra, all-embracing good, the elder brother of the sons and daughters of the Buddhas, I completely dedicate all this goodness. Likewise, may I dedicate just as the skillful Samantabhadra, with pure body, speech, and mind, pure actions, and pure Buddha fields. I shall give rise to the aspirations of Manjushri for this Bodhisattva practice of all-embracing good, to perfect these practices without discouragement or pause in all future eons. May my pure activities be endless, my good qualities boundless, and through abiding in immeasurable activity, may I actualize infinite emanations. The limitless is the end of space. Likewise, limitless are living beings. Thus, limitless are the karma and afflictions. May my aspirations reach be limitless as well. One may offer to the Buddhas all wealth and adornments of living beings in 10 directions, and one may offer during eons numberless as atoms of the world, even the greatest happiness of gods and humans. But whoever hears this extraordinary aspiration and longing for highest awakening gives rise to faith just once, creates far more precious positive potential. Those who make this heartfelt aspiration for the Bodhisattva way will be free of all lower rebirths, free of harmful companions, and will quickly see Amitabha infinite light. And even in this very human life, they will be nourished by happiness and have all conducive circumstances. Without waiting long, they will become like Samantabhadra himself. Those who give voice to this extraordinary aspiration will quickly and completely purify the 5 boundless harmful actions created under the power of ignorance. Blessed with supreme knowledge, excellent body, family attributes, and appearance, they will be invincible to vast interfering forces and misleading teachers, and all the 3 worlds will make offerings, going quickly to the noble Bodhi tree and sitting there to benefit sentient beings. Subduing all interfering forces, they will fully awaken and turn a great wheel of Dharma. Have no doubt that complete awakening is the fully ripened result, comprehended only by a Buddha, of holding in mind by teaching, reading, or reciting this aspiration of the Bodhisattva practice. In order to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality as it is, and just like Samantabhadra as well, I completely dedicate all this goodness just as they did. With that dedication, which is praised as greatest by all the Buddhas gone to freedom in the 3 times, I too dedicate all my roots of goodness for the attainments of the Bodhisattva practice. When the moment of my death arrives, by eliminating all obscurations and directly perceiving Amitabha, may I go immediately to Sukhavati, pure land of great joy. Having gone to Sukhavati, may I actualize the meaning of these aspirations, fulfilling them all without exception for the benefit of beings for as long as this world endures. Born from an extremely beautiful superlative lotus in this joyful land, the Buddha's magnificent mandala, may I receive a prediction of my awakening directly from the Buddha Amitabha. Having received a prediction there, may I create vast benefit for beings throughout the 10 directions with a billion emanations by the power of wisdom. Through even the small virtue I have accumulated by offering this prayer of the Bodhisattva practice, may all the positive aspirations of beings be fulfilled in an instant. Through creating limitless positive potential by dedicating this prayer of Samantabhadra's deeds, may all beings drowning in this torrent of suffering enter the presence of Amitabha. Through this king of aspirations, which is the greatest of the sublime, helping infinite wonders in samsara, through the accomplishment of the scripture dazzling with Samantabhadra's practice, may suffering realms be utterly emptied of all beings. So that's a fitting conclusion to our module on Bodhicitta. Thank you, everyone. And I think next weekend or next Tuesday you have a break, right?
Yeah, I'll send out a note.
So in that time, send the self-assessment questions I sent to Mary Ellen. So
I will. They're good.
If you can take an hour or so just to fill out those questions to kind of review your own understanding, condense your own understanding from this module. But thank you all for your participation. I was happy to spend some time together doing something virtuous with you all again.
Thank you so much, Geshe-la.
Thank you. Geshe-la.
And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Thank you, Mary Ellen.